Whew, let's all breathe a sigh of relief. After a bit of a scare, Bitcoin and Ethereum are so far not banned in the EU. Over the weekend, a last-minute addition was put into the EU's Markets in Crypto Assets Bill, or MiCA for short. This addition would have banned the mining and use of cryptocurrencies mined using the proof-of-work system, essentially meaning anybody in the EU would not only not be able to mine Bitcoin and Ethereum, but they wouldn't even be able to use Bitcoin and Ethereum, or any other proof-of-work cryptocurrencies. Hopefully to many this was a bit of a wake-up call, as it was, as I said, a last-minute addition to a bill that was originally presented in 2020, and then this addition happened just in a couple days right before it was getting voted on. So it's important to pay attention and watch out for these things whenever it comes to new legal infrastructure being created around cryptocurrencies, and try to do what you can to make sure that there's nothing totally crazy in that you're completely against. This addition in the bill was voted away with 30 against it and 23 for it. So it was actually relatively close, and in the time before the vote, people actually weren't sure which way it was going to go. And although this addition was voted away, a majority did vote to include an alternative legislative proposal with, quote, the view to include in the EU sustainable finance taxonomy any crypto asset mining activities that contribute substantially to climate change mitigation and adaptation, which is supposed to be presented by the Commission by January 2025. So this is definitely a big pullback from the initial idea of just banning anything proof of work. So on the bright side, this proof of work ban in the EU is probably gone for good as far as it being just a outright ban. And this proposal that's supposed to be brought up has a couple years to go, and it's not even about a ban, it's just about some sort of proposal on adding some framework to make sure that cryptocurrencies are more eco-friendly. Which, that's a whole argument that we've talked about before, and we'll probably talk about again. It's always around the whole Bitcoin mining, proof of work, energy-intensive debate. Is it worth it? Is it not worth it? Should it change to something else? There's a ton of arguments on both sides. As for the state of the MiCA bill now, it's proceeding to negotiations with the European Commission, the Council of the European Union, and the European Parliament. That's all I have for the factual news update on MiCA, but looking into this did get me interested and actually pulled up the bill. It's really long, and kind of skimmed through it myself and had a few of my own ideas. So I'm gonna go ahead and put these in here as well. Just as a quick disclaimer, these are, again, just my own personal impressions after scanning through the bills, just what I'm thinking right now after looking at it, and it doesn't necessarily reflect the views of Phemex. If you want to hear a bit about my take, then keep on watching. In the wording of the intention of the bill, it does actually sound pretty crypto-friendly, as it proposes to help support innovation in the crypto space and only provide the regulation that's necessary to protect consumers and even help further adaptation of crypto. Of course, that sounds great, and there are plenty of people in crypto that are supportive of a little bit further legal framework for crypto so that we can all get some more clarity and make sure we're doing things that are above board or legit. That being said, it seems that just naturally the process of creating a very detailed legal framework for cryptocurrencies is always going to run a big risk of pulling innovative cryptos into sort of the quagmire of bureaucracy and slowing down their innovation, even if that's not the intention, while at the same time arbitrarily punishing those crypto projects that don't want to be slowed down and continue innovating without paying enough attention to all of the more bureaucratic regulations. But those are just some overall ideas. Let's look at a few little specifics of this bill that I just pulled out, again, from a quick scan, and see if you guys also think these are interesting. One of the first things I noted is that this bill does not address NFTs in any way, other than to say that they're not included within the structure of this bill. In my opinion, this is probably good, as I think it's better to focus on individual parts of the crypto space one at a time, and NFTs are a whole different area that probably needs its own bill to address, or, you know, could not have legal framework. One thing that I thought was odd is this bill divides crypto assets into 3 categories, but 2 of those categories are different kinds of stable coins, and the other category they just call utility token. However, this puts a lot of cryptos into sort of an unknown space. Even Bitcoin, for example, the definitely biggest one, it's not really a utility token, but it's definitely not a stable coin either. So perhaps I'm just not reading the bill in enough detail to understand what they're saying, but from what I looked at, it's kind of strange for a lot of these cryptos like Bitcoin that are mostly made to have value and be transactional but aren't tied to any asset. The section in this bill related to those cryptos that aren't stable coins seems sort of primarily focused on regulating ICOs and other initial distributions and sales, as it mostly exempts coins that are distributed for free from any of the regulations included in this section of the bill. But one problem here is that even though it says ones that are distributed for free are exempt, it says that all those that are being listed on exchanges are not exempt. So this would basically include any project that actually has enough momentum to be a real legit project in the space, especially if this includes decentralized exchanges. Another point that kind of rubbed me the wrong way is they specifically included white papers as part of the legal framework of a new crypto project and set out some standards for things to be included in white papers and say that the white papers need to be reviewed by the responsible legal entity for the project to be allowed in the EU. The reason this rubs me the wrong way is Satoshi's Bitcoin white paper, and in that white paper, it's specifically laying out the details for this new innovative project whose big innovation is that it runs purely on the code of the project itself, even without any external influences, especially governmental ones. So for me, this felt a bit like hubris because it's bringing this thing that's this purely crypto, Bitcoin maximalist, the sort of Bible of cryptocurrencies, the Bitcoin white paper, and then pulling it into the whole government framework and regulating what needs to be in a white paper. But if I do pull out and look at it, I can also see from their perspective, because of the Bitcoin white paper, this has sort of been established as the way to know about the real details of a project, and that's the main thing people look at whenever doing a fundamental analysis or anything. So from that perspective, I can understand it. Another important thing to note is that the majority of this bill spends its time looking at and trying to regulate stablecoins, which is also in line with most of the recent discussions and regulations in the US government as well. Some good news in this regard is that this MiCA bill does differentiate between algorithmic stablecoins and asset-backed stablecoins. So that does show a bit more understanding in the crypto space than we come to expect from these government entities sometimes. In my personal opinion, more regulation on stablecoins might not be a bad thing and definitely isn't surprising, as getting electronic money from your bank or anything already has a lot of regulations to ensure that the bank is able to back what they're supposedly giving you and make sure that there's not sort of a bank run that ends up, having a bad effect for a lot of people whenever it turns out that the supposedly backed assets aren't really there, and then people's money that they thought was worth something is suddenly just poof, gone. However, also in my opinion, I think it's better to continue allowing a full scope of options. If the main stablecoins that most people are using are a little bit more regulated, that could just increase trust in the whole cryptocurrency ecosystem. Then there could be those primary ones that people trust a little bit more that lower the barrier to entry. But I think it's better to allow for the full range of options. So even in the stablecoin space, hopefully we won't get all stablecoins regulated, as there's always room for innovation even within stablecoins, and new innovations won't necessarily fit into the legal framework that's made for something that's old innovation. So while I do think it's reasonable that the main focus is on stablecoins in this bill, I do also think that this presents a little bit of a risk because non-stablecoin crypto assets are also included but less focused on. So there's some risk that because they're included but not the main focus, then these regulations for other cryptos get passed through but not enough thought has been put into these regulations as it wasn't the main focus, and then some non-stablecoin crypto regulations get through that just don't really make sense, and they kind of mess up innovation and use of different cryptos in the space. For example, like I said about only including the 3 types, and the non-stablecoin type saying it's only utility token, which I think doesn't fully cover all kinds of cryptos. But like I said at the beginning, this bill is not all the way through. It's just at the next stage, which is negotiations with the European Commission, the Council of the European Union, and the European Parliament. So there's still time for this bill to get hammered at and changed along the way, and hopefully it comes out at the end something that overall helps the crypto space instead of damaging it. So to end with, I just want to say one more time, I'm definitely not the most qualified expert to speak on this. I just looked at it and had some of my own thoughts and thought I would share them. But if this topic interests you, then I do encourage you to go read through the bill if that's your thing, or at least find some other people who are more fully certified experts in whatever area of this bill you want to look into, whether it be the legal side or the technological side. If it interests you, there's a lot of other sources that know a lot more than me. So I hope I piqued your interest and you'll go check out some other sources, and what would be really great is if you even came back and commented some of your findings, because I'm also interested to learn more. And if you already know more without researching more, also let me know in the comments. Let's all talk about it, shall we? Alright guys, thanks for watching. See you next time.